Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Wins and Lessons. We win some, we learn some. This is a podcast about the fears, failures, and fun of being a dad.
Yeah, today we sat down with a great man, great dad named Rob Chapman. Rob's a part of the church for many years, part of worship ministry for many years, and just all around good guy.
Yeah, and it was really a great conversation. It was a lot of testimony, which I love, and Rob has been through a lot. He's got a lot of really great ways in which God has encountered him in some pretty miraculous ways, really. Yeah. And so we talk a little bit about that and how it's impacted him being a dad. And we talk a little bit about control and trusting God with your kids. And it's a good conversation.
Yeah, enjoy. We talk about when it's your time to go, as far as like God calling you into eternity. But I also think when it's your time to follow Jesus, it's your time. Yep. Like there's like nothing I could say from the pulpit that would squash that or emphasize. Like I just think like, absolutely, man, there's some times when God, he's got a number, he's got a date for you. This is the time. Sure. You're giving your life to me. I know it.
Well, you take Ray's example, the guy I just talked about. And I didn't share with him my testimony.
Yeah.
It's similar. I wasn't going to go to jail. I was going to hell.
Yeah.
And my time, I was met with what I call the holy 2x6. I was in Palm Springs. I'd gone to Sunday school as a kid.
Yeah.
I believe there was a God, but the whole Jesus relationship I wasn't too sure of. I was partying a lot. I was really good at analyzing businesses and helping businesses untangle problems, right? So I'd been contracted to work in Palm Springs to correct a restaurant that was a nice location but being run poorly. So I brought my kitchen guy with me, and we went up there, and of course the cocaine was unbelievable.
Sure.
It was all over the place, and I like cocaine a lot. So every night was just a coke fest, right?
Yeah.
So one night we're done with work, and my buddy's nickname was Big Dad. So Big Dad and I are sitting on the couch. We just snorted a bunch of good cocaine. He goes to bed. I don't know how he did it. I could never sleep after doing that. Watching a Celtics basketball game, and I start to get a pain right here in my sternum, and it's getting worse and worse, and it's to a point where now it's like I'm having trouble breathing, and I'm pretty sure I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah, and you're worried because you've done a bunch of cocaine. So you're like, geez.
Yeah.
And I'm in a fetal position, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to die, and my parents are going to get a call, and my grandfather's going to be so ashamed of me. And I'm afraid, and I can remember from Sunday school, from youth group, call upon the Lord, he will not forsake you. So I said, okay, God, if you get me out of this, I'll do anything you tell me. I was like, I'm done, whatever. So you know when you're at the beach as a kid and you've done the whole thing, you're laying at the sand and the waves come up your body and that coolness. Okay. That same feeling happens, starts at my feet, but it's warmth. And warmth is coming up my body, and I'm thinking, okay, this is what it feels like to die. I must be dying. And as soon as I thought that, as clear as my voice is in your ear right now, God speaks to me. Wow. And now I've talked to other people that have heard the audible voice of God.
Yeah.
And when you hear it, there's no question who's talking to you.
Yeah, there's no unhearing it.
Oh, no.
No.
That's God. This is the entity that made you, right?
Yeah.
And he gives me 4 clear instructions, personal for me, not just general stuff. One was, move back to San Diego and get your old job back. Okay. Number 2, marry Sherry, who I hadn't talked to in almost 7 months. 3rd, never use drugs again. And 4th, accept my son Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Boom. I fall asleep, deep asleep, a deep asleep I can remember. I don't think I've slept deeper in my entire life. Get up the next day, no question what happened to me. I've been given a new lease on life. God has saved me. Don't know what for, don't know exactly how to do this stuff. Know that I realize that, man, I haven't been doing the right thing, and God just saved me from certain death.
Yeah.
I've been pulled out of whatever. I didn't even know there was a pit at that point.
Yeah.
So I go to my roommate, Big Dad, and I say, I got to borrow your car. Because I didn't need a car there. I walked to work. They paid for my home.
Sure.
They paid for my housing and everything, right? He says, why? And I tell him what happened. He goes, you are effing crazy.
He's like, how high did you get?
I think you're still high.
He says, he calls me Big Dad. He goes, Big Dad, you've lost it. Dude, you've lost it. I said, okay, if you don't want to let me use your car, I'll rent one. He goes, no, I'll drive you. So he drives me. And I get my old job back like right away. They would hire me back. It was food service, I was a waiter, and I did a good job for them. And I tried to call Sherry. This is before cell phones, right?
Yeah.
And message machine wouldn't take my call. She kept on going, man, this is gonna be a tough one. I got to do that, right? So the 4 instructions, got one of them done. Tried with Sherry, and got my first shift back at work. And the guys come out, chaps back, party arty. Hey, we're buying an 8th. You in? I'm thinking, God told me not to use drugs again, but God, these are my, yeah, I'm in. I throw my money in. It's my time to go in. There's the tip tray and the straw and the razor blade. And I'm thinking, God told me not to, but do my first line. As soon as the Coke touches my skin, ever work with electricity where you get shocked by one time?
Yeah.
It's that feeling, but it's not going away. And it's like, oh my God. This is crazy. I flush it, blow my nose out, feeling goes away. I'm not shaking, but I have
So hold on, you're saying it was like a feeling of electricity,
like
sort of?
electricicity, like it
Like
was like
shocked,
I'm
like you're
being
getting shocked.
Yeah.
like it's going through my body.
And you knew right, you're like, oh, this is God.
This God is this. I didn't really fully understand until the next thing that happened to me. So I got clients. I have customers.
Yeah.
So I go back out to the bar, and it's like, and I was very good with food service and stuff. And anyway, I finished my shift, and I'm going, man, that's crazy. So a week goes on. Sherry takes my call. We meet for a glass of wine. We're talking. She's kind of looking at me like, okay, now she's the first one to tell me about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. She was backslidden at that point. But so she says, okay, let's talk about maybe getting back together and seeing what's going on. But she says to me, I'm not interested in a kind of a casual relationship. If we're going to get together, I want to get married. But I'm not going to marry somebody that's not a Christian. And I said, well, that's the fourth thing I have to do. I've got to accept Jesus.
So did you tell her?
Did you tell her that whole story from the desert?
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
God told me that you're supposed to get back together with me.
Did you say that part to
I
her?
did. Oh, yeah. He
Did
told
she,
me I
was
was
she
supposed
like,
to-
you're crazy? Or
No, she knew it was God. She
Yeah.
knew right away it was God.
Yeah.
But she was very skeptical
Sure.
of me, right?
As
She's
one
like,
should be, probably. Yeah.
I mean, I'd done some not good things in our
Sure.
relationship. Right? Okay. And I didn't deserve her to take me back. Like I didn't deserve any of this,
Yeah.
right? So, okay. So I'm still moving some stuff, and we're talking about it, and we're going to figure it out. And I'm living in an apartment, and I pull some stuff out, and I find this half a joint of some killer weed, dude. It was like some of the best weed I'd ever smoked in my life. I'd saved this thing because it was that good, right?
Yeah.
And I smoked a ton of pot back then. So I'm thinking, okay, look, it's just a half a joint. I'll go out back. Nobody sees me.
Yeah.
There's a berm here, and there's a tree here, and like there's nobody can see me.
Yeah, you're like me. It takes you a long time to right? Lots of mistakes
2
over
by
and
6,
over again.
buddy,
Yeah.
2 by 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm out back, and I light it up, and I got a little thought back there. What's going to happen as soon as the smoke touches my lips? It's like that feeling, but it's more.
The electricity,
Yeah.
the electric shock feeling.
And I go, God, please don't strike me dead right now.
Oh, man.
And I threw it down, and I've never touched pot or coke or any drug. I mean, I drank wine, and
Sure.
never touched it again. And so at that point, it dawned on me. It wasn't God said, you're probably not going to want to do that anymore. God was saying, I will make it physically impossible for you to use again, because what I have for you, down the road is too important. I need you to fill this role.
Yeah.
I have a mission for you, like
Yeah.
he does for everybody. Like you said,
Yeah.
for Brandon Lord,
Yeah.
God has a plan.
Right.
And for some reason, he decided now is the time to engage this soldier
Right.
for Christ, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's what's so cool about that. Or Ray, the guy at the gym.
Yeah.
God, and to read his post, dude. I mean, I'll have to share one with you sometime.
That's cool.
It almost brings tears to your eyes. Here's this hardened guy who is just like the song says, a wretch like me. I mean, our wretchedness is no higher or lower
Right.
than anybody else's, but you look at him and you go, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
where you were and where you are, it's remarkable.
Wow.
But we all have our story, right? So in
Yeah.
God's plan. So for me, God was preparing me for this role of being a father and now a grandfather. And he was honing me, and he was knocking off the rest of stuff. And so, long story short, I didn't tell Sherry at that point that I found this joint, I'm going to
Right.
go ahead and do it.
Right.
And I'm ashamed that I did it, but I know God loves me because he didn't kill me right there. Right? So I
Right.
thought, okay, he's got something else for me, and I'm not sure what it is, but I got to marry Sherry, but I have to become a Christian first. So there's a Calvary Chapel in Poway, California. Jim Hesterly was the pastor, and Sherry had started going there. And so I thought, okay, I got to go. So we go to church, and I went a couple times. And then one Sunday night, they showed the movie The Mark of the Beast, which is an old movie from like probably made in the 70s, early 70s. And it wasn't very good production, you know, I mean, compared to what we can do now, right? But it hit me. It was just a gut punch. And I went, oh, this is way bigger than just me and cleaning my life up. This is like eternity. And I went up and accepted Jesus, not knowing what would happen to me.
Right.
And a week and a half later, Sherry and I got married at the Justice of the Peace. And Sarah was 7, right?
Yeah.
And she had her little dress on, and she was our witness.
No way.
And what was interesting about that is, so for me as a dad and as a granddad, there's no question why God saved me. I was supposed to be the father for Sarah, Chris, who are not my bio kids, as you know, and Seth and Becca, who are my bio kids. And I was supposed to be their spiritual head of household, their father. And now I have the privilege of being grandfather to their kids, 12 grandkids. So I'm a blessed man.
It's pretty cool. Man. So let me ask you, because I'm curious about this, is that when you felt like, oh, hey, God has this plan for my life, like he's not even going to let me to use drugs because like there's such a big plan, like he's not even going to let me to screw with it, right? He's like, so the big plan was to be a father, right? That was it. Sometimes I struggle with being like, okay, God's purpose for my life. Sometimes I feel like being a dad isn't like a big enough purpose. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Sometimes I feel like, oh, I need to like have this vocation, or I need to be like a pastor, or like, you know, have a microphone on a street corner, like telling people about God or something like that. And sometimes like being a dad is just, it's not like big enough. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. And,
let me say this before you answer it. We can. I've just hit record, but we can edit any of this that you want to take out or take in. But I just like us talking, and this will be our conversation.
Yeah,
so
no worries.
Pull the mic just a little bit closer if you could, Rob. But yeah, talk about the purpose of dads.
Okay, so I don't think there's any greater purpose for a man. And this is one of the things I admired about Charlie Kirk, was he would say to young people, get married and have children and raise your family in the ways of the Lord. A lot of controversy around what happened with that and all that. That doesn't matter. I believe that for all of us men, if we are blessed with the privilege of being a father, it is the most important role we can have, right? Because we're helping to form other people. And you never know what your son or your daughter, you have daughters?
Winnie, the youngest,
You don't know what they're going to do. And the imprint that you make on their life and the example of our Heavenly Father that you bring to your family is huge. So the other things you get to do, like the other ministries, I'm a drummer on the worship team.
Yeah.
You're a pastor.
Yeah.
You're an investment counselor or
whatever. Who knows what I do?
Those are other things God allows you to do, and He will, if you're available, use you in those roles to further the kingdom. And this is one of the things that I've talked a lot about when I'm in the BSF group. If you can remain available as a man in your real role as a father, in your job, or in your role as a pastor, or in your friend groups, or at the gym. You know how many times I just grab a guy and just pray at the gym? I mean, it's like, guy sharing with me a couple of weeks ago about something that's going on in his life. I said, hey, why don't we pray about it? You know, being available to be that, I use this word conduit for God's love, right? So I said to the BSF guys, I said, listen, guys, we're breaking up for the summer. We have the summer off. We're coming back in September. Remember 2 things. First off, it's easy to lose connection because we do deep dives into the Word. I mean, it's really cool. I love how we roll up our sleeves and just get right into stuff. And I'm kind of we were in Revelation last year, and it was like, oh man, I just ate it up. I loved it, right? And I get off on the supernatural stuff. So for me, it's kind of, God's got a great imagination, doesn't he? I mean, it's so cool. So anyway, I said to him, I said, think about this. How does God communicate with us? Well, we hear our pastor's message at church, but that points us back to one thing. That points us back to his word. If we're not in his word on a consistent basis, we're not allowing him to communicate with us, right? Now he can communicate in other ways. I mean, when we're stubborn, he'll talk to you when you're about on death's doorstep.
Yeah.
But on a consistent basis, it's his word. He communicates with us through his word. And if we're not diligent in his word, at least a little bit every day, we're missing the point, right? How do we communicate with God? Through prayer. Two things that are critical: being in his word and praying. So something that's come on my heart in the last, I don't know, probably 3 years. I may have shared this with you. For some reason, God is showing me my role as a father, my role as a grandfather are still my priority. And that's not to lessen my number one, and that's my role as a husband, right? But how can I be used? How am I available? What's my most effective way of allowing God and the Holy Spirit to flow through me, God's love? I believe I'm supposed to be encouraging to people, and it's a natural thing for me. And at first I used to think it was kind of cheesy that I would do that, but I love doing it. I love encouraging people, you know. And then it became really clear that I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to see the good in people and encourage them and tell them how I feel about that. It started at worship team when I would, because I've been on the worship team for, good Lord, how long?
Decades, right?
36 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm the old guy. I'm the oldest guy, right? And so when new people come on, I get the privilege of telling them what a great job they did. And I look at it that way. And then what came up with Sherry and I, we do a walk every morning. We've been walking, I don't know, about 4 miles a day in the mornings. And we'd start praying for people. And then the prayer list started to grow. And then it started to grow. And it's like I was forgetting people. I'm going, honey, I got to do something different here. So I've got a prayer list that's about 65 people long.
Wow.
And it's growing. But when the prayer needs have been met and God has blessed that person or healed that person or the need is no longer there, we take them off and so we have this carved out time when we're walking. We call it our prayer walk, and we just pray. And it can be people from anywhere, like Nathan Cannon.
Yeah.
He said that he wanted his kids to find a church in Nashville. And I said, adding it to the prayer list.
That's cool.
You know? So that's, so where I'm going with all that kind of a long story is your role as a man, if you're blessed to be a father, is to be the best father you can be. And we all fall short. And then once you're doing that and that's functioning, look for other opportunities. How can God use you? Where can God use you? God's using you in a mighty way. I mean, you're a dynamic pastor. I mean, I love your sermons. I love your approach is different than your dad's. You've got your own thing. It's different than your grandpa's, but I see your dad and your grandpa and what you do sometimes. And it's very cool to watch your grandpa, not a lot, but he was a fire and brimstone. Bring it, man.
Yeah.
Did you ever see his grandpa's?
I never have. No.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. At the end when he couldn't see, didn't need to.
Yeah.
He memorized the Bible. I mean, the guy knew the Bible, the whole Bible.
Yeah, he was great.
And then Brian's got his own style.
Yeah, definitely.
And Seth said, my son Seth said something interesting. Brian had said to me not this past Sunday, but Sunday before, he said, how's Seth? And I said, he's doing good. I'd like to see him, start coming to church again. But I said, he loves the Lord. He loves the Lord. He says, will you tell Seth that I said hello for sure? And I said, oh yeah. So Seth and I play music. Seth's my second oldest son. He's a guitar player. So we have a little music house on our property. And so we jam on Wednesdays. And we just, classic rock stuff or whatever, and he'll pull a song and Becca comes and sings with us.
Cool.
It's fun. And that's another great thing I get to do is I get to play music with my kids. 2 of my kids are musical and 2 love music, but they're not musical. And I said, hey, Pastor Brian wanted me to make sure that I told you he said hello, and he goes, outside of you, Dad, he's really my spiritual mentor. That guy in my life is the guy I know he knows, about God. And I said, I got to tell him. So I told your dad. He goes, that's so cool.
That's special.
Yeah. When a pastor can have an imprint on a guy like that, that's good stuff.
So Rob, this I'm with you. I'm tracking, and thank you for hanging out and sharing your heart with us and stuff. this passion for being a dad, being a grandfather now. Was that modeled for you? Like, what? I don't even know. Like, your relationship with your dad. Was that a good relationship? Was that a good model, or was it not? And you're like, no, man, we gotta make this right. Or, what was your relationship with your dad like?
So my dad, to my knowledge, was never a believer.
Okay.
He was very strict, very analytical, and very articulate.
Yeah.
Pretty intense. I know he loved me, but the first time he told me he loved me, I was 42. So I never let a day go by that I don't tell my kids that I love them. So what I learned, and I'll share this with you, one of the things I took away from my relationship with my dad was I learned a lot from my dad. Some of it I don't want to replicate. And those are valuable lessons. Okay. I learned a lot of good stuff from my dad. He taught me how a good work ethic. He taught me how to never quit. Always believe you can do it. But as a kid, my dad was very strict. Pretty much it was his way or the highway. There wasn't a lot of leeway. My mom was extremely loving, so she kind of made up for it. But neither my mom or dad had a strong connection to church or God. There was a Bible in the house if I wanted to look at one. But because friends went to church, and my mom did a lot for the church bazaar where they raised funds for youth group.
Okay,
and stuff.
okay.
My mom was a knitter, and she made things. And so we kind of had a connection with a Congregationalist church, Protestant church in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut on the East Coast. And back then, in my day, when I was a kid, and just because of how it is back east, it's more buttoned down. Guys wore, ties and jackets to church every Sunday. There was a hymnal in the back, of the
back of the pew,
Yeah, and it was a big Gothic style church, absolutely beautiful. It's still there. It's amazing. So I got involved in youth group there. My dad was never against it, but he would never give us rides. My mom always gave us rides. And I thought, okay. And I thought, does my dad ever go to church? Well, I think I saw my dad go to church outside of a funeral, maybe twice. We went on Easter Sunday, I can remember as a little kid. And I think he went to a wedding, but didn't really see a place for God. Wasn't discouraging to us going to youth group, but he never made us feel like we were doing something wrong. And in his own kind of stiff way, he was supportive of certain things we did as kids. So I'll give you an example. My sister's 1 year younger than I, very close. I have two sisters. One is 3 years younger than I, and I'm close with her. But my sister Betsy and I kind of were very close because we were a year apart. So we're in youth group, and there had been a lot of chatter about the songs we listened to, the kind of music we listened to, right? Which is not unique to my generation. It's generational, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the older people and parents had been complaining that these kids listen to this music and blah blah blah, and our youth group leader said, well, there's a lot of feedback on they're concerned about music that you guys listen to. And I said, so a couple of us got together and I said, I wonder if the minister would let us do a service where we would take excerpts from about 6 or 8 songs that were contemporary songs back then that had Bible verses in them, and then do a little talk about it. And we all shared. So he said, I don't know if they'd let you do that. They're kind of, conservative here. And I said,
yeah.
So he goes to the minister, the head guy, and he says, yes. Well, now we need a sound system because they don't have a sound system. I mean, everything was this giant organ, it was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful organ, but it just filled the whole sanctuary. It was unbelievable. But how are we going to do it? Well, my dad had this killer stereo. My dad was just an audio freak.
Yeah.
He built his own stereo from Heathkit back in the day.
Oh. Was he musical too? Was he a musician?
Accordion, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, and he was amazing on the accordion. And he'd only play it on Christmas Eve. He'd pull it out and he'd play like "Here Comes Santa Claus," and
that's funny.
But he was very, very good at it. But outside of that, he loved listening to music.
Yeah.
So So I got to go to my dad, who has this, I don't know how many $1,000 stereo he's got, and it's really nice. And I go to him, I said, Dad, we have this opportunity to do this service at church, but I need a stereo, and I don't have anything. And he goes, you can use my stereo. And
Really?
I look back on that now and I go, it's pivotal for me.
Yeah.
Right. So we take my dad's stereo, which is like, he built this whole thing, and it's killer. We bring it down to the church. We rig the whole thing up. I've got the big Tandberg reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I've taken all the excerpts. We've done everything, know exactly where to stop everything, and we've got and we do this service.
Mm-hmm.
And the people absolutely loved it.
No way.
oh my, they asked us to do it again. We did it twice.
That's so
It was
cool.
a total hit. So I say that about my dad
Yeah.
to say, although he never modeled the example of a church-going man or even a godly man, because we never talked about God. I mean, he didn't, I would talk to my mom a little bit about it, but she was kind of stiff, and they were very much of the school where you don't talk about politics or religion. That's just something private, right? So my sister and I attended youth group, and then pretty much all the way through high school, and would go to church. But nobody ever said to me anything about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. It never came up. It wasn't talked about.
So you were going to youth group just because it was something to do,
Yeah.
or all your buddies were going, or whatever.
And there
Kind
was
of a
good-looking-
cultural thing.
good-looking
Yeah.
chicks,
Yeah, I can meet a girl. That's great.
And so it's so funny that you would sit in church. I feel like I sat in church for 15 years and didn't hear I didn't hear some stuff that I know was being talked about, but my mind was just like, I don't know, I didn't hear it. But so you did the youth group for what, 4 or 6 years, and never really heard like what should be the basic is like, hey, personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So what was it for you that I mean, I know you didn't, it was a little later on when you actually had that encounter, but like what was it like after that?
Well, so I go to high school, and there's this buddy of mine, Fran Monahan, and he was a very gregarious, great basketball player. Kind of a floppy-headed guy, but he was always friendly. And Fran becomes a Jesus freak. And everybody looks at Fran like, what the heck, Fran? What happened to you? He goes, oh, man, he accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. And he was talking about the Lord all over the place. And I'm looking at him going, my experience at youth group, Fran's like over here. And I'm like, this is all tight wound and kind of nobody's talking about it. But Fran's out there talking about Jesus Christ. And I'm going, I didn't get that at youth group. And
So how old are you at this time?
I'm a sophomore in high school into junior year. And so everybody calls Fran a Jesus freak. They label him a Jesus freak, kind of in a...
Is this around the Jesus movement era of history?
Well,
or
I graduated in 72, so yeah, it would be in
so
70,
maybe, yeah.
Could
But
be.
this is East Coast.
This is East Coast.
Yeah.
Right. So, and during that time, there was crazy stuff going on.
Right.
I went to a very large high school in Norwich, Connecticut. Norwich is right near New London, Connecticut. Our high school had 3,600 students in it. It was really big. It had a campus, like a small college.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a science building and a math building and an English building and
Yeah.
And so during that time, we had, I think there was probably 400 black students in our school. There were a few Puerto Ricans. We didn't have very many Hispanics because it was on the East Coast, right? You'd have Cubans or Puerto Ricans, right? And but the blacks were active, and some of them were. I had a lot of black friends. I had a lot of buddies with a lot of athletes, and my sister was very popular because she was a prom queen. She was a National Honor Society, and everybody knew her. So I had a lot of black friends, but the racial stuff was really intense. And I can remember coming out of a midterm exam. It's cold. It's like March. I come out of the science building. I think I had a chem. It was a chem exam. My buddy Tim's with me, and we look across to where I go to church, which is right next to where I went to high school. And so Park Church was the name of the church. And on the Park Church grounds, there's all kinds of chaos over there. Stuff's going on. What is happening, right? And I look over there, and there's people fighting. Tim goes, what is going on? So we go over there, and it was tragic. There's a ring of adult black thug-type people, and inside this ring are like 2 white kids getting just pummeled. And I knew one of them, and it was like, there's nothing we could do. And, it was scary. And there's times when you look at that and you go, and of course, afterwards they found out what happened. It was terrible. Both kids survived. One had a broken jaw, and it was a very bad mark on the school. And you look back at the stresses and the struggles of that time, because there was a lot of black, white, tough stuff going on. And we got to see it, in our little town. Norwich is small. It was about the size of Reading, not that big of a town. But I came out of that going, man, this is weird, because I look at, and afterwards, some of the relationships with some of the black guys, they were like, how do you feel about this? And I said, I think it's terrible that it happened, but it doesn't change how I feel about it. You're my buddy. You know what I mean? So I went through high school during those times, loosely connected to God through youth group, not knowing that Jesus had a place for me, and not knowing about how to have a relationship with Jesus. So when Fran was the first one that, okay, what's this Jesus freak stuff about? And it probably, and then I went away to college. After high school, I went away to college. I went to Boston, and I learned how to party, and that really took a lot of my time. And I did okay at school, and then I decided that school wasn't for me. I was going to go to work, and I knew I could work. And I was in the restaurant business and still partying a lot. And the further I got away from home, the less impact any youth group or any kind of church, because I wasn't going to church.
Sure.
And spent 4 years in Boston in the restaurant business, and decided that I didn't want to be in the city anymore, and saw some really bad stuff. Worked for a guy that wound up dying of a heroin overdose. He was a club owner, and I was trying to help him manage his bar, and he got in with some bad people, and I left. I decided I didn't want to be around that stuff anymore. I went up to New Hampshire and went to work for a guy that owned 3 restaurants and a gas station. And he was a self-made guy. He was an absolute wild man. Would show up to work with a bag of Coke in one pocket and a bag of pot in the other pocket, and say, "Chap, let's go to work."
Is this 80s by now, or is it still late 70s?
This would be. Got out of high school too. This would be 76, 75, something like that. So I went to work for him, and because I'd come out of Boston working in a high-paced restaurant atmosphere. So he hired me and kind of rose up the ranks, and tried to avoid his personal stuff because he was bisexual, and he thought that I might be something he was interested in. So I had to deal with that, and worked for him for 4 years. And one day he fired me. I reached the top of the totem pole, and I decided I was going to go to California. And I was living with a gal. And I said, "I'm going to California. You want to go?" And she said, "Sure." So we together moved. She had no relationship with God. God wasn't even on the horizon for me at that point. I still believed that there was a God back there somewhere, but there was no connection. Got to San Diego, went to work in the restaurant business, got a job at a food and beverage director at a club in Ramona, California, owned by Watt Industries, and worked there. That job ended, went down and helped a guy open a seafood restaurant in San Diego called Cafe Pacifica. And that was fun. Still no relationship with God, no talk about God. And I worked with a guy who was one of the owners who started talking about going to church. His name was Deacon Brown. And he was a flawed man, but he had a connection. His parents had a connection to God. And every once in a while, he would just say, have you gone to God on that one? I think, gone to God on that one? What does that even mean? Right? So one day, I'm serving. I was a server, and it was daytime, and a fellow server from another restaurant who I knew named Ken was coming in. He had this little girl with him, and it was her birthday. It was her 7th birthday, and he sat down in my section. The little girl was Sarah. This was a year before I met Sherry.
This is your oldest daughter.
Yeah.
This is his oldest daughter he's talking about.
So Ken comes in, and Ken's Sarah's bio dad. And he said, "It's my daughter, Sarah." And she's a cute little kid, And I waited on Ken and didn't think another thing of it. And a week later, he comes in with his mom. It's Mother's Day, and it was cool. And so I'm working at Cafe Pacifica, and I wanted to open my own restaurant. and I had a buddy that I had worked with who had a little bit of money, and we had a lot of energy. So we opened a restaurant in Poway, California. Didn't have enough money to make it work, but we decided we'd give it a whirl. Partying like crazy, just wild men. And the day we were opening, this BMW pulls up, this old BMW 2002 Tii pulls up, and two great-looking blonde chicks. And this little girl that I thought I'd seen before, and this little kid, this like 6-month-old little boy. And my partner says, hey, check it out. So they're coming to the restaurant, and they come in, and it's Sherry and Vicky, her sister Vicky, and Sarah and Chris.
Wow.
And so I look back at that and I go, that was pivotal for me, right? So Richie was interested in Vicky, and Sherry and I kind of like, are we interested in each other, what we're doing? So they start coming in, and it's like the third time they're in, and the little boy who's Chris, who's my 46-year-old stepson, I don't call him stepson, he's my son.
Okay.
He's got a load in his pants. And everybody's talking, and I'm thinking, this poor kid, he's got a load in his pants. Yeah. So I said, where's your diapers? She goes, why? And I said, I'll change the kid. I took him out back because we were in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I guess, her grandma was with her. And she said, you better marry him.
Someone that would willingly change your son's diaper. Yeah.
But I fell in love with Chris. I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't realize what God was doing. He was setting me up ahead of time like he does. He's got the plan ahead of time, right? I fell in love with Chris. I think I might have loved Chris as much as I loved Sherry because it was just one of those, whoa, I'm drawn to this kid. And I mean, Sarah was cute and everything, but Chris, for some reason, So Sherry and I started a relationship. She comes to work at the restaurant. And it was crazy because she had kids, and I love this little kid, and I'm not used to a woman with kids, but I can do this. I know I can do this, right? And we get close, and one day we go to open on a Friday morning, and we had quite a following for lunch. Things were going good in the restaurant, starting to build up. We open the door, and water flows out. There was about 6 inches of water all over our parquet wood floor. The unit next door that was vacant had a pipe break. It flooded that unit. It came through the wall. Yeah. Killed us. We didn't have enough money to survive it. The insurance didn't cover enough. So now I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do now? Well, I got this relationship with this woman that looks like it's going somewhere. Wasn't sure where. Still no relationship with God. But Sherry had been talking about God, talking about, you need to think about a relationship with God.
And was she a Christian, or did she just have like a little bit of background?
She was a backslidden Christian. She had accepted the Lord, but was making choices that God wouldn't approve of. But like a lot of us do as we as we go through life. So our relationship was stormy and fiery, like a lot of them are, and it still is, by the way. I mean, we have one of those. We're both firstborn. We're both very rebellious and very strong-willed. And we laugh about it now, right? And so, I got this opportunity. Watt Industries calls this guy Woody that worked for Watt, who was one of the top guys. Hey, and I need you. Goes, I need you to go to Palm Springs. So I'm getting ready to go to Palm Springs, and my old girlfriend calls me, and I'm with Sherry, but she wants me to pick her up at the airport because she wants to talk to me. And I've been dating Sherry for a while, and this happens. And I make this choice. I pick her up, and Sherry finds out.
Sure.
And I blew it. I just totally blew it. Stupid. But it was part of God's plan because it had to happen, right? So we break up, and I take this job in Palm Springs, analyzing this restaurant, like I said. So I go up there and hadn't talked to her in 6 months, and I get this card from her out of the blue. And all it says is, sometimes I miss you so. And it just, still stuck there, but I'm pissed at her because, okay, I'm a rebellious, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
And then about maybe 3 weeks later, the event happened that I described to you. Yeah. And it was just, the last thing I thought about was marrying Sherry, honestly.
Sure.
So when people say, how do you know it was God? Like my grandson, check this out. Riker, Chris's son, his oldest son, Whitley calls. My son's wife's name is Whitley, and they have 4 kids. Whitley calls and says, Poppy, because they call me Poppy. Poppy, Riker wants to talk to you about something. So when he gets out of school, he's going to call you. And I said, oh, okay. Because, they do this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He wanted to know how I knew it was God talking to me.
Yeah.
And this little 7-year-old kid wanted to know, how did I know it was God? And so I had to leave the crazy stuff out. I had to tell him that, let me tell you something, Reiki.
You didn't go into the bad trip and the cocaine.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I said, I told Chris, I said, I kind of PG'd it for him. He goes, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
He says, later on when he's sitting out
We'll
there,
fill in the gaps
Right.
later. Yeah.
So anyway, but I look back at that and I think, God is so interesting how he weaves things together.
Mm-hmm.
This event, this huge thing that happened to me, hearing the voice of God that changed my life completely.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson wants to know,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, is that a blessing?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the beauty of being a dad. And then you get to be a grandfather. And I know your dad's told you the cool stuff. And I don't know, but the blessings of how watching my son be a dad,
Yeah.
both my sons. I mean, there's nothing like it. Watching them say things that I said to them.
Yeah.
Some of them good, some of them not good. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah.
So I become a Christian. I'm a brand new Christian. I don't know what's going to happen. And I look back and I think, I knew there was no question in my mind I'd been saved for something else. It was just, what am I being saved for? Because I was done, dude. I was done. There's no question. I think back and it's very clear in my mind. It's not hazy at all. What was ever happening here was not, I was not going to live through that without God's intervention, right? Okay, so I know that. So it was very clear to me that, one of the questions in Bible Study Fellowship was, have you ever doubted that God, that God loved you? I mean, how do you deal with that? Well, from the time he saved me, I have never doubted that he loved me. And that's one of the things that I had to tell the guys. I said, my testimony, my God, the come to Jesus moment for me, if you will, was so intense and so 2x6.
Yeah.
It's like a faith build. I can never not hear those things. And I think for a lot of people, maybe it's not as strong, and so the faith isn't quite as there as much. But gosh, what a blessing to be like, oh, I'm 100% certain that like God spoke to me and told me exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And so when I went through tough stuff, because I've been through some tough stuff, tough stuff with kids, medical stuff. Horrible things that you'd never want to have anybody else go through. Stuff at work where I'd lose a job because I'd stand up for what was right. I'd stand up for what I thought God wanted me to do, and lose a $150,000 a year job because I wouldn't commit bank fraud in the car business. I refused to do it.
Right.
And that's what they did. They were committing bank fraud. They'd lie about uncredited applications. They do all kinds of stuff. I got offered a job. I was working in I had a great job. I was working in Poway, California at a little car dealership, a little Toyota store. I worked a mile from my house. I worked with a buddy of mine, and we made good money. It was fun. It was a great job. I got to talk to people all day long and make money. And what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and now I'm a walking with the Lord guy, and I could share with people and I could pray with people. I had a girl come into my office, guys. This is crazy. I'm just thinking about this. I'm a used car manager at Escondido Nissan. Crazy store, very busy. Worked with a couple Christians, a couple believers, a couple non-believers. This girl comes into my office. She needs to sell her car. She's a lady, and she's like weeping. And sales manager wasn't a believer. He goes, "Hey, I need you to appraise this car." And this lady's upset. Something's going on with her. And I'm thinking, okay. So she comes in and she sits down, and she's crying. And I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. You look like you're really upset. You're bummed about selling your car." And she goes, "Well, I don't want to sell my car, but I've got cancer and I need the money for the treatment."
Jeez, that's heavy. Yeah.
This is heavy duty. And so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what can I say to this lady? So I appraise her car, and we will buy her car. And so I said, "Can I pray with you?" And if the boss knew I was doing it, no. But she said, she's crying. She says yes. So I pray with her, and you never know. I'm probably not going to see her again. I don't know what's going to happen with her. She comes up the stairs to my office like 2 weeks later. She says, "I'm cancer free."
Wow, man.
I'm cancer free.
Yeah.
And she said, "Your prayers." And I said, no, not my prayers.
Yeah.
I said, "It's God."
Yeah.
That's God. And I got opportunities. I got at that dealership, I met a man that probably was instrumental in my my desire to encourage and help people. His name was Myron Hetland. He'd been a pastor of a church for a long time, and he decided to go into the car business. So he left the church and went into the car business, which was kind of an odd switch.
Right.
But in his role in the car business, he didn't change who he was. He had a following of generations of clients. He sold 40 to 50 cars a month on his own. He was like, for the owner, it was like, don't ever change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? But Myron was so such a radiant beam of the Lord, and he was quiet, and he was very conservative. Always wore a tie and a jacket. He wouldn't participate in any rough talk or anything like that. He'd always encourage you to look at the good side, find the good in people. And when the family was young and I was struggling, this car came in. It was a Chevy Kingswood station wagon, perfect for my family. I really wanted to buy the car, but I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And Myron comes over and he says, it came in on one of his deals. He goes, you need to buy this car for your family. This is the perfect car for your family. I said, I know you're right. I said, I just can't afford it right now. And that car's going to go on the used car lot. He goes, I'm going to loan you the money for the car. And you're going to pay me back monthly because this is the right thing to do. And I looked at that and I thought, this guy is amazing. And he's probably not alive anymore. I lost track of him, but he was such an example to a lot of people. I thought, I kind of want to be like that. I want to be like a Myron. I want to be like a guy that people look at and they feel good about talking to.
Yeah.
And they feel good about what he brings to their relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of great examples outside of my dad.
Yeah.
So to get back to my dad, I know I kind of went around the bush here.
It's okay.
My dad's dad,
Yeah.
my dad's granddad was an alcoholic. My dad lived with his parents and his grandparents in a house because that's what they did back then in Connecticut. And he would tell me stories about, Grandpa Mert would get up just cranky and mean in the morning, and he'd come back at night. He was so happy. It always smelled like booze, though. Well, Grandpa Mert would like drinking crazy. Right? So my dad's dad was also an alcoholic, but he was an amazingly inventive guy. He was basically a genius, I think. If he needed a tool and he couldn't buy it through the Sears Roebuck catalog or the J.C. Whitney catalog because there was no internet then,
Yeah.
he'd go out to a shop and he'd make
Just
the
make
tool.
it. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's cool.
And, as I got older, I really started to appreciate him. But he had no relationship with God. His mother, Grandpa Mert, great-grandpa Mert, and Mert's wife, I can't remember her name. I think it was Rachel. Rachel was very godly. So Lou, my grandfather, had to go to service every Sunday with a tie and a little jacket, and he hated it. He absolutely hated it. Well, his nickname was Lou, right? But he always signed his name J.L. Chapman. It was J. Lewis Chapman. And nobody would tell me his first name until I was like 16. I said, why? What does the J stand for? What does the J stand for? Well, I found out it was Jeremiah. And because it was a biblical name, he hated the name.
Really?
And he would never let anybody call him by his given name. And so my dad grew up with a non-godly, family of example, I guess. My granddad was just hardworking, but drank hard. And my dad saw his dad do a lot of bad things with alcohol, affairs on his mom, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So my dad was very measured in his alcohol use. He would occasionally drink rye whiskey, but a very little amount. I only saw my dad intoxicated one time. I never saw him party doing anything else. He was very structured. It's because he came out of an upbringing where he saw an example that he didn't want to be. My dad saw things in his dad he didn't want to replicate. I saw things in my dad I didn't want to replicate. My dad had an affair on my mom, and it broke up their marriage. I was 25 years old. And I found out that he'd been having an affair with this woman actually, he knew her before he met my mom, but he'd been having an affair with her for about 20 years. So for me, by that time in my life, I never believed in having a whole lot of different girlfriends. I kind of was a one-woman guy. But that solidified for me that, that was not something I wanted to replicate. I didn't want to be like that. And of course, when I accepted the Lord, I look back at that. And so I tried witnessing to my dad several times, and he would be very polite. He'd listen to me, and he'd say, I'm really glad that works for you, but I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
But he would do things like I told you about, when I was a kid with a stereo, but I'm an adult now, and I'm operating I had a fairly large administration company.
Can you pull that mic just a little closer?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
A fairly large business here in Reading. I employed about 120 people. And during the growth, I was doing some additional products to our offering. And my dad would ask me questions. And it came down to some contract wording in a buyer agreement. And so I would read to my dad and bounce off of him. And he said to me one time, he said, are you comfortable with that agreement? How does that align with your Christian faith? And I looked back at that and I thought, isn't that interesting? He didn't want any relationship with God, but he loved me enough in his kind of strange way, I guess, to say that to me. How does that line up with your Christian faith? And it made me reflect, and it made me change a few things in it. So throughout my life, there was little bits of, I remember I had pneumonia when I was in first grade, really sick. I had bronchial asthma as a kid. And I got pneumonia, and I was so weak I couldn't get out of bed. It was bad. And, it's back then, the doctors would come to your house, and if you're really bad, they'd put you in the hospital, right? So my parents said, no, leave him here, and I can remember my dad staying up like all hours of the night, feeding me water in a spoon, because that's the only way I could stay hydrated.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I go, okay, I have a hard spot in some of the behavior my dad had shown me, but I do have a space that I knew he loved me. Yeah. And it was a good example. That kind of perseverance, sitting up with your kid, feeding him water.
Yeah.
Now, you guys would do that for your kids. I would.
Yeah.
But that's an example.
I think this is a pretty common theme for us as we get to talk to a lot of dads, of like where maybe their relationship with their dad wasn't the greatest. Right. Not that for some of the dads it wasn't like horrific. Right. There are some dads we talked to where it was horrific, but some of the dads were like, yeah, I would have wanted more. But it wasn't bad. But then when they look back upon the relationship their dad had with their dad, it's like, well, it was getting better. Yes. Generationally, yes. It was getting better. Like what my dad was able to offer me was like way better than what he got from his dad. It gets better and better. I think as dads, my assumption is, and you've been a dad far longer than Nathan and I, but my assumption is you never stop being a dad. Nope. You're always a dad. And so like, even in answering this question for us of like, can you give us one win and one lesson learned as a dad? I know we're still probably learning as a dad of older children now, but when you think back, if you could you give us one lesson, like something you learned, might have been a hard thing, and maybe you got to correct it in being a dad, or maybe you didn't, and you just want to help other dads, like, guys, don't miss this one. Sure. What's one lesson first, and then we'll finish on a win?
I think for me, the lesson that I'm thinking of right now, because Blake had told me, made me think about it a little bit. The biggest thing I came away with is there is definitely a God. I knew that. And I'm not him, and I'm not in control. And as a dad, I tried to control so much with my kids. I didn't want them to get hurt. I didn't want them to go down the wrong road. I was very, very wary of bad decisions they would make. Now, if you said, would I do it differently now? Probably not. I'd probably try to do the same thing, because I can see now, by being a diligent dad and having a wife that was as diligent of a mom, I see the results. I see kids that love their children. My kids as parents are excellent parents, and I'm not taking credit because God made them. Sure, but they've all told me, Dad, thanks for I know I complained about how strict you were, or you wouldn't let me do this. Yeah. Thank you. Now I see it in my kids. So when I said there is a God and I'm not him, I learned as the kids got older is get out of the way and let God do what he's got to do. Just kind of guide them and teach them that they need a relationship with the Lord. Now, what they do when they're adults, I got 2 kids that aren't in church. I got 2 kids that are very diligent. My 2 oldest kids, they're regular attenders. They're involved in their churches. Their kids are in youth groups. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. We get to go to church with them when we go back to Tennessee. It's really a cool thing. Seth and Becca here, they don't. But they both love Jesus. They both love the Lord. And I've told them, this is your choice. I can't make you go to church. So letting God be God in their lives, for me, it was a learned thing. I had to go, okay, I really don't have a lot of control here.
Yeah.
So what is that like? Help me understand that, like what that looks like in an example of being like a father and a leader and an advisor, right, and a counselor, but not like being controlling. Like, give me an example of something that maybe you did where you're like, okay, obviously I want to like try to point them in the right direction, but I don't want to control them. Does that look like not making them go to church? I mean, does that like not forcing them to go to youth group? Like, tell me, like, what does that look like in practical terms?
So when Sarah was probably 23, she had gone to a couple of different schools. She was still schooling. Maybe she was 22. She had a thing where she'd come home and then she'd move out. She'd come home and then she'd move out. And pretty soon it was like, okay.
Let's make a choice here.
Let's make a choice. So we had said to her, look, we don't mind you moving back in, but let's make a commitment this time. I actually would like you to sign an agreement to commit to finish school. Sarah was brilliant. She never had a problem with grades. It was just, deciding what she was going to do. So she said, okay. So she signed this agreement that I had written up that said she would stay and complete school and not move out. So Sherry's coaching soccer. She's probably about 6 months into the agreement. And one of the other mothers said, hey, I hear Sarah's moving to Portland. And it was like, Sherry goes, no. Sherry comes home and says to Sarah, what's this about? I hear you moving to Portland. And it was like, she's not going to talk to her mom. She's upset. Something's going on. I call her down in my office. I said, hey, you signed an agreement here, and we have an agreement. This was you and I agreed that you were going to do this, and Mom agreed. What's going on? She said, I'm moving out. And I went, oh. And I didn't realize she already had friends with trucks at the house.
Oh,
they were
wow.
moving her stuff. So she moves to Portland, and it was like, whoa. And she moves in with a guy. And this is my daughter who's not married, and she's living with a guy. So I called her and I said, you know that that's not what God wants for you. And it's not what I want for you. And she says, well, I can't find anywhere in the Bible that says I can't live with a guy. And I said, come on, Sarah. Come on, right? I had to take my hands off the wheel at that point. I had to say, okay, I got to let God do what he does here. I've done all I can. She's an adult.
Yeah.
I've guided her as far as I can go. And that relationship wound up not working out. And Sarah wound up coming back and realizing, and she said to Sherry before, thank you so much for some of the stuff you did that I didn't appreciate back then. One of them was no TVs in your bedrooms. We didn't let kids have TV in their bedroom. I mean, now it's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But she said to us, especially to Mom, thank you.
Yeah.
Because, that made such a difference, right? So I think an example of that would be at some point you go, okay, you got to take your hands off the wheel.
Now, would you say that happens the older the kid gets? I don't know the diagram, but the older the kid gets, the less hands on the wheel,
Yeah.
right? Like,
and you guys are going to see this. Here's what happens, and this is what happened to me with all my kids. They don't want your input. Okay, they're little. They want your input. They want you to be around them. They want to play. They want to have sports. They want to do all this. You do all this stuff for them, which it's a privilege. It's just family. Like you and I talked the other day in the kitchen. What a privilege! You get to go to ball games, dude, and watch your kids play, and encourage them and go through the tough stuff with them. Go through the Then they get to be teenagers, and they don't want to listen to you very much. So they respect you, and there's their little push-pull. And then they get to be like 17. It's like they want to get out on their own. They're ready. And sometimes they're listening to you. Sometimes they're not. And sometimes what you say is stupid to them. They don't, And then there's that period of time when they're kind of on their own, and they love you. And depending on the kid, they're still connected with you. And, you know, and then they have kids. And then it's like, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of these, and that's a
Bell curve of sorts. Yeah, they come back.
And what a blessing when your daughter, who's been a heroin addict for 10 years, who's cleaned up, and she's sitting with you at Christmas, and she says, Dad, I know your prayers covered me. I know they did. God would not let go of me. And those are the darkest times, man. When you have a daughter, a child that's a drug addict, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring for their life. And I look back on that and I go, God never left. He was always there, and I knew he was there. But boy, there was dark days when you just like, oh man, are we going to get a call? Is something going to happen here? You know. But the whole time, she knew that the prayers of her father covered her, even in those dark spots. Even to the point, guys, check this out. She and her husband were heroin addicts for about 10 years. They had 2 daughters during that time. She gets pregnant, and she delivers Micah, right? Micah. Who is like God is the biblical definition of that name. As far away from God as they can be. I'm driving on business up in Carson City. They haven't named the kid yet. CPS has gotten involved. They drug test every mother now in California, right? She tests dirty. Here's this little baby boy, and Sherry's in San Diego, and I'm working in Carson City, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have some tough stuff we're going to go through here, and I don't know what the name is. So I get a call. They named him Micah, and I had to pull over. I started bawling my head off. They named their son Who is Like God. Now you see this little guy now. He's a beautiful child, absolutely beautiful. No, thank you, Jesus. No adverse effects.
Yeah.
And so does God let go? No, he doesn't. Even in the darkest times, he doesn't let go. When Seth had his brain aneurysm, so here we are. My son's he's 20. He was 28 at that time.
Yeah.
Working at Kobe here in Redding. He's a server, not making good choices with his life, doing recreational stuff, taking pills, not making good decisions. I had just talked to him about a week before about changing his life. He was very down, very in a place where the evil one would want you to be, right? Had him hard. Wouldn't stop encouraging them. Going to always encourage your kids, no matter what they go through. If they got a dad that loves them, and is going to stay by him and pray over them, or pray with them if they'll pray with them, don't ever stop. Don't ever stop, because that's exactly what the evil one wants you to do. Stop. Don't ever. So he'd been having really bad headaches, didn't know what was going on. He'd been in a soccer collision in an indoor soccer where he got slammed on the boards and it knocked him out. Anyway, goes to work one night. He's got a bunch of tables in the restaurant. People can't find him. He's in the walk-in cooler having a seizure. Yeah. He's having a brain bleed. They rush him to SRMC. I walk in. I look at the CAT scan. Oh boy, there's blood just filling up his brain. He's on the gurney, laid back, strapped down, just full-blown seizure.
Yeah, no dad wants to see that.
And I said, Seth, don't give up. We're praying. Hold on. Don't give up. Don't know if you could hear me or not, but I call Al. Al goes out to the elders. Probably within 15 minutes, there's 50 people praying. Within an hour, there's probably 200. And by the end of this, Brian tells the story. Brian's in Africa with a pastor's conference. He's got I'm texting Brian, and Brian's giving them the updates. Anyway, Seth gets rushed from SRMC over to Mercy, where they drill a hole in his head to release the pressure. And we're wondering, and it's like, okay, this is serious. Is Seth going to make it through? Is he going to even be, So this little short Middle Eastern doctor named Mustafa, who was on staff, about Sherry's height, 5'1", right? Would not leave. His shift was over. He would not leave until Seth got a bed at UCSF
Mm-hmm.
because he knew where Seth had to go. And I look at that and I go, there's God using a guy that might not even acknowledge God
Mm-hmm.
to fight for my son's life, because he had a buddy in the neuro unit at UCSF, and he says, I got to get this kid down here. You got to find a bed for him. He comes out at 3 a.m. Yay, we got a bed. He had told Sherry, he grabbed Sherry, he goes, I'm not leaving until we get a bed at UCSF, because that's where he had to go. So we get on a fixed wing aircraft at 9 o'clock in the morning. I got 2 hours sleep. I'm on the aircraft. There's Seth all hooked up. And these 2 paramedics were freaking amazing. You should have seen them. They were like gymnasts. They're all over the. I don't know if you've ever been in an airplane with somebody that's on in ICU.
No.
It's unbelievable. I'd never seen it. I mean, I've seen movies and stuff, but this was crazy. These guys knew exactly what to do. Every time something beeped, don't worry, that's okay. This up, beep, beep. This thing's on. Woo, woo, woo. You know, we land at Oakland. Big van ambulance pulls up, slide him in. I jump in with him. We're ripping across the Golden Gate Bridge, to UCSF. Yeah. We get there, they take him in. It's like, it's all a whirlwind. And my buddy Joe, who lived down there, shows up with his wife and food for me and burgers. And he goes, you're staying with me. We got you. We got you. We got dinner for you every night. We got you. There's God using somebody just to hold us tight, right? So the next day, Seth gets the #1 aneurysm surgeon probably in the Western United States, a guy named Mike Lawton. And he says, okay, we're going to bring him in. And I said, could I pray with you? And he didn't respond like he was a Christian. He said, okay. So I put my hand on his back and I just prayed for his team. 7 hours. They couldn't use they couldn't do the coil. They had to open his head and go in. He had a major blowout. They used 2 clips to close it up. And then the question was, what's he going to be like? You never know. The damage from the blood, right? And he was and I mean, you remember.
Yeah, I came down and saw him, yeah.
And that was about 2.5 to 3 weeks in neuro ICU with some of the best clinical people I'd ever seen. Some believers, some non-believers. And every day we prayed. Every day everybody's praying, and we're just praying. And my kids were there. They got to see Mom and me, Sherry and I, handle probably the toughest thing we've gone through as mom and dad, right? Knowing that your son could be dead at any time, right?
Yeah.
And but Sherry tells the story. We prayed specifically for God to show us how to honor you through this terrible situation. How do we honor you through this, right? And Sherry prayed that she says, God, don't ever let me let you go. Please don't ever. Because, she goes, sometimes people's hearts get hard if something happens. And I'm sitting in the neuro ICU. Seth's under the knife. And God, it wasn't the audible voice of God like I had heard at my salvation or prior to my salvation. It was the reassuring knowledge that he imparted on me was, I know you're scared. I know you're afraid. But watch this miracle that I'm going to perform in your son. And I went, okay. I mean, I knew he was there, but he just told me this is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the steps that they came through and all that stuff. So I look at that and I go, I learned a lot about get out of God's way.
Yeah, letting go and trusting your child to
huge
God.
for me.
Yeah.
And then you look at Seth's walk and where he's at. It's like, okay. I mean, he loves the Lord. He's not walking with the Lord right now. He's not doing exactly what I'd like him to do, but
you got to trust God's plan, because God's plan took a long time with you, right? Sure. It took a long time with maybe your daughter and even your wife, and it took a long time with me. Exactly. And so, you just got to trust, because for us it feels like a long time, but for God it's all within His plan, right? So that's interesting.
What about? Could you close us out with a win as a dad, and then pray for dads for us? But what would be like? You look back on your career, continuing your career as a dad, but what's an area as a dad where you're like, I think that's a win, and I want to encourage other dads to consider that.
So I thought about that a lot, and I think that for me to see my adult children with their children, my grandchildren, is a huge win.
Yeah.
Knowing that all my children have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ
Yeah.
is I was on the team that helped that.
Yeah.
God's the coach.
Right.
God's the team manager. He's the one. And to be able to know that all 4 of my kids know the Lord,
Uh-huh.
and they're raising their kids knowing the Lord,
Yeah.
is the other part of that win. And to see my grandkids, you know, when Grandpa, some of them call me Grandpa, some of them call me Poppy, when I can get them together and say, hey, let's say a prayer, and they come right over and they want to pray.
Yeah.
Or they want to pray. Oh, Grandpa, can I pray? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, you can pray. What a cool thing. So for me, it's knowing that my kids and my grandkids know the Lord. They know I know the Lord. And that's important. That's, I think, probably the most important thing in my existence as a parent and grandparent, is knowing they know the Lord.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's John. Is it 2 John or 3 John when he's writing to believers and he says, "Man, there's no greater joy than to know that my kids are walking with the Lord." You know, and to be able to instill that in your kids, regardless of where they're at in their relationship with Jesus and commitment to Christ, like there's something within them that's like, this is important. This is a foundation of our family. And for them to be raising their kids to at least have a chance to know who Jesus is, to have a relationship with God, I think is vital,
So
pivotal.
real quick before I pray,
Yeah.
I got to tell you something. So Sarah is my oldest daughter. Okay, she's the one I met when she was 7 years
Right.
old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
She's got 3 children. Her second child is Kate. At 18 months old, Kate started having seizures, brain seizures, and they didn't know what was going on. So she got rushed to Mercy, got on a helicopter, flew to Oakland Children's Hospital. She was diagnosed with Sturge-Weber syndrome, which is, in a quick version, it's when there's excess blood vessels between your skull and your outside of your brain that aren't supposed to be there. They're supposed to have fallen off, and they don't. They rob blood from the brain, and they cause seizures. The diagnosis leads to a hemispherectomy, where they take a part of the brain out that's seizing. That's the operation Dr. Ben Carson perfected. So Kate goes through hemispherectomy surgery at 22 months. She lost most of the use of her left forearm, can use her hand a little bit. Her gait, the way she walks, is a little bit off, but not bad. Her vision is, her peripheral's a little bit precluded, and her reaction time is not quick enough for her to drive. She just graduated high school. She's 18. Absolutely beautiful girl. And she loves Jesus Christ. Oh, she wants to go to YWAM in Switzerland. That's her dream. She wants to serve the Lord. She loves kids. She loves writing. But as a grandpa and her parents are saying, okay, how will she support herself as she gets older? What will be her means of support? So I got a very close relationship with Mike, my son-in-law, and he owns Sarah and Mike own 4 coffee houses in Nashville, and I'm kind of a business sounding board. It's fun. I can live vicariously through him. Right? He sends me this text last week, and he goes, I need you to look at this. He's created a website, kind of a landing page, that's called Letters of Joy from Kate. And it's set up so that the person can go in, and the requesting person puts their name in and their phone number or email address, and the person they want prayer for, and a personal letter to be written to this person. And he said, would you demo this for me? Put something in. So I did. Okay. So I'm in tears because I'm thinking, what a good father. Guys, this challenge these parents have, my daughter and her husband, of how to help their daughter, who's now 18. What's she going to do, right? He's got this great idea, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what a blessing to other people, right? Thinking, I don't know where it'll go. It's got a little donate button, so that's how the money will come in. An hour later, this happened last Thursday. An hour later, my buddy Bob Packard, who goes to church here, he's kind of busy. He needs to put some tri-tips in my fridge. He's got a catering job. We're having a cup of coffee. He goes, hey, guys, I need to know if you'll pray for my niece. Her name is Millie. She's been having seizures. She's got to have some brain procedure. She's 8 years old. I'm going, oh my gosh. And I had told him about Kate's letter thing, and he goes, would Kate write a letter to Millie? And I'm going, God, isn't that unbelievable how you've taken this situation and this opportunity. And here's this.
That's
so
sweet.
I don't know where this will go, but I just came away going, this is unbelievable. Well, Millie, so we've been praying for Millie Webb. She opened her eyes today.
Oh, wow.
So the surgery happened Friday.
Praise God.
She opened her eyes. She started coloring. It's getting better. They don't know if she'll have any impairment, but I just thought, what a cool story.
Yeah,
What
that
a
is cool.
cool example. Anyway, I'll
That's
pray.
fantastic. Yeah, can you pray for all dads, man? All dads wanting to figure it out and be great dads.
Lord Jesus, thank you for this opportunity to talk with the two Nathans and share a little bit about my walk and my history and the privilege that I've had to be a dad and now a grandpa. I lift these two dads, the two Nathans, to you, and I ask for a blessing spiritually, mentally, and physically in all they do, in everything they do in their lives. But most importantly, Lord, show them what you want from them and for them as fathers and then as grandfathers. And for all dads that will hear this, dads, don't ever stop looking towards God. He's always got a plan. He's always got your back. Lean into him when things look tough, Lord. Just reach down to these dads and let them know you're there. Thank you for the privilege it is to be a father, and thank you for the privilege it is to be a grandfather, and thank you for being our Heavenly Father. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving us your time.
Yesterday is over and the future has come.